Okay, good evening. Welcome to the April 8th, 2025 meeting of the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Board of Commissioners. I call to order the meeting at 6:30 p.m. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. I do not have any specific remarks. Do any of the commissioners have any reports?
Yes. To say that many of us attended the Municipal Light Commissioner Association's March meeting on clean heat standards. It was two presentations. I'll just talk about what it was, and then everyone can kind of chime in with their impressions. It was two presentations. One was the state, walking through the actual policy and like how they kind of put it together and what the key pieces were, answering questions that commissioners had on the policy. And then the second piece was a presentation, probably not going to get this totally accurate, of a emerging technology, I guess, water source heat pump technology that's more has better like peak shifting capabilities, to shift from on peak to off peak hours. And so it was a presentation on that technology and kind of what it could deliver, from California, but they also have other pilots in Canada and other places that are more like Boston. Vermont. Yeah. So now but everyone can add their clarifications or additions to that.
Did anyone else express an interest in writing a letter?
So far, 13 systems have.
Really?
Yeah, Jane's been collecting them.
The meeting wasn't, and it wasn't just because there was so many different there wasn't policy discussion. It was more questions around the technical and stuff. I was disappointed that they did not talk about alternatives of how they might achieve a clean heat standard. It was very focused on the energy providers, regardless of gas, oil, electric, so on and so forth. On the second part, the technology was actually, I think, kind of fascinating, using air source heat pump to water conversion, and then using that water as essentially a thermal battery. And maybe it looks like direct conversions to folks that have baseboard heating, radiant heat, and also supplies domestic hot water as well. So it's kind of a fascinating technology, and be curious to see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought the technology was interesting. I thought the presentation, and they had blinders on. They've been instructed to look like this, and that's what came. So they shared the same slides that we've seen in a bunch of different settings. So and Jean-Jacques asked that we not talk about whether they can or can't impose this on us, so we stayed away from that. But we still had technical questions about why this is the right way to do it,
Did have something on a different topic.
Oh, well, can I just say then that the next two MLCA meetings are April 24th on the depreciation account. I actually don't know what that is. So I'd be interested to learn more. I don't know that, have we talked about that here? I don't think we have. So, and then, yeah, I've not heard of that. And then the May meeting is on May 29th on long.
I had one other thing.
I definitely want to determine for this. That's not how I'm selling it. On the other hand, I'd be working the kind of, but that's not how I want to sell it. That's what they would do. So.
I'll say just a couple things. about that presentation. So people did ask questions about how it would work, and some of the same issues were raised that we raised. People, I think commissioners didn't understand, had questions about the money, like once the ACP is collected, how did they have a plan for how that would be used and dispersed? And the answer was no.
There was actually the Tom Morahan question from Hingham was a great one. So Tom's question was, I'm in Hingham, I only have so many low income customers. Say it's 40, I have 40. If I put a heat pump in every one of their houses, would I be exempt from the extra penalty for low income? And their answer was no. So basically they're gonna, no matter what, they're taking the money and sending it elsewhere. So that was a great question.
And then I think people had questions about how can the utility generate credits? And there's not really a mechanism for that.
Excuse me, the sound is getting muffled.
Oh,
Something happened. I don't know. It was coming through great at first.
there's no.
Is it better? Is that better?
Still muffled.
Sounds robotic.
But disconnect audio and then reconnect it. A lot of times that'll just hit the audio. Just say leave computer audio. Is that better?
Can you hear us now?
Okay.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's how Jeff fixes all our computers.
Yeah.
He unplugs them and plugs them back in again.
Yeah. So just, people had similar questions. Somebody had asked a question about how would the utility, generate credits. There isn't a mechanism. It would be the installers that would generate credits. So there was so it was just, and I think it was good feedback. It was a good session. I think that for them to hear directly from the municipalities, because I'm not sure how much exposure they've had prior to this, directly interacting with MLPs. So that was good. I just want to mention that one thing I learned on that call also was that Reading has an interest-free loan for heat pumps, and the 0% loan and on-bill payments. I know that MWIC has a low interest financing program, but I just don't know if have we considered that?
Tariff on bill financing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big popsicle headache because the way you have to do it is you're attaching the house. So unless you
Oh, that's right. We talked about this.
Yeah. So depending on, I mean, you could do some kind of modified version of it as long as you still own the house.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're becoming a bank.
Yeah.
So
okay. All right.
I think the earlier discussion we just had about costs is catching up with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just had one comment around the announcement on April 1st that all of the staff for the LIHEAT were laid off at the federal level. I know that a lot of that funding comes through the state, and then that ultimately gets dispersed to munis like us. We also, correct me if I'm wrong, we also rely on the data from that to qualify folks for our own low income program. So just kind of, I know we're coming out of the heating season, but it will be upon heating season pretty quickly again, and just kind of thinking about how financial impact and then administrative impact the loss of a program like that has down, as it trickles down.
So I don't think we, in terms of the income qualification, which we do use that for, it's not the only mechanism we use to determine if, we have to kind of default to the fact that there's potentially a low income situation. There's two provisions that protects them from shut off. The first is income and the second is health condition. And so, and we're not limited to just LIHEAP. So,
Right. So the other thing, Tom, there's another third party involved, so it isn't directly from the state to the utility that, the money comes through the state. There's a third party, it's Leo is an economic, whatever their acronym is. And they do the qualification, so the family is going to bring their, whatever, their rent receipts, their pay stuff, they do that qualification process. It's not done here in house. So it flows through them, and then the money, if they're qualified, flows through Leo from the state to Leo back to the utility. That's kind of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
yeah, it's a concern though. Yeah.
It's a concern that, a lot of the, LIHEAP, Leo, they're all connected. The funds ultimately come from the feds down to the state down, and so there'll be a trickle effect that may impact us from, receivables.
Yeah, the bottleneck would be at, either the state level or at the Leo level.
So just, about monitoring. I'm sure you guys are already potentially looking at that, but wanted to bring that up.
Well, I guess the broader question is, over the next couple of years, how are we keeping our customers informed about these impacts? I don't know that we've really discussed that. And they're changing every day now, so that is really hard.
Yeah, Sharon brought it up. I mean, the reality right now is that there's chaos and so there's mostly you describe it as uncertainty. It's not really clear where a lot of things are happening. So that in mind, we can talk about it in that section, but the only thing we know for sure is what ISO is saying in terms of our power costs. The March bill is gonna have a little more money in it, 5%. To start to build up a cash reserve in case the tariffs have an impact, because right now they're concerned about that. So we've increased our purchase power cost by 0.5 cent to cover that potential larger March bill for that. And if it ends up being a non-issue, we'll have a cushion and a credit with ISO New England so that it'll end up coming back in the wash. But as of right now, we need a little reserve.
It's easy to give it back.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that we know for sure, that in the conversations with MWEC and with ISO, they do need to get a small cash reserve built up. Their portion of our overall supply is about 5%, 5 or 6%. So to cover any potential increases in that's where they're concerned in terms of what's coming from Canada.
Then goes back to your question, at what point does it make sense to inform the customer, I guess?
I think when we know more for sure. Going into the winter season, we might have a little bit of a run rate in terms of what we know is truly happening, like what Tom raised.
Yeah.
Other than that, right now, it's kind of every day.
I know, every day.
Stock market was back up, then it was down again. I get in my car, I leave Bloomberg on, and I get a headache every time I drive.
Well, they even say in like the memos that we've received, it's on the very last line is, this matter is subject to ongoing litigation.
And subject to change at a moment's notice. Yeah.
Yes. Uncertainty is the only constant.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other reports? Not, we don't have any members of the public. We can move on to the secretary's report.
Moving on to the approval of the March 4th, 2025 minutes. Are there any edits or changes to the minutes that are published in the board book that folks would like to?
I did find one. The one I got, I don't know if there was a separate email, but the one about February versus December, I did catch that, so we have to fix that. So under the secretary's report, motion to accept, we said the December minutes instead of the February minutes.
That was one that I
Yeah.
thought.
Oh, so this, the actual motion.
The motion,
should match the sentence above
Yeah,
it.
exactly. We'll fix that.
Got it.
The only thing that I had put in that didn't seem to get into the minutes was the letter for the clean heat standards. It just asked if, for in the minutes, if we could just put a link to the actual letter on the website, which I couldn't find the actual.
Did we put it on the website, Joe?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
But we can do that.
Yeah, I just think for the record, right, we have the letter, make it easy for folks to go and consume it.
Yep.
That would be the only edit that I had. Anyone else?
No. My changes in, so I'm fine.
Take silence. It's golden. I will make a motion. Accept the March 4th, 2025 minutes as amended. Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
In terms of the dashboards, we celebrated the 1 year anniversary of the solar roof. So I did include a couple of
A lot of
dashboards.
information about it.
Yeah, I included, Joe put together a handful of graphs and charts. The second graph is actually very interesting. This was the projected output curve that was projected before the project was installed versus the actual. And it was basically, they missed by about 3 houses worth of electricity. That's how close they were to the actual projection.
Yeah.
Seems pretty on the money.
Yeah. So that I thought was really impressive. The actual versus the projected almost followed exactly. And again, if you add up the delta, it's about 3 houses. But then it's comparing output and what we've been putting back on the system. So we're not going to put this in every month, but I just thought on the 1 year anniversary, it'd be nice to have some information about how it's producing.
Thank you.
Great.
Have you had it like any sort of feedback from customers that are on it? Like it's just.
So we haven't had any positive or negative, like nobody's complained that it's actually costing them a little bit of money right now for the winter and nobody's caring.
No.
They got credits in the summer, so.
I mean, like, occasionally if some other customer, talking with them about something else, and they're also a community solar, it's been positive is the only couple of things I've heard, but basically, not too much feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we would have potentially heard the feedback over the past 3 months when obviously the charge is probably more than the credit they're getting, especially in February. But we haven't gotten any feedback. And I think people were well educated enough to understand that that was going to be the case.
And we're still fully subscribed, like no.
Yeah, nobody's bailed out, right?
Nope. Yeah, we're still fully subscribed.
All right.
I thought the upper left graph was interesting because it looks like the ratio of production between the community solar portion and the WMG solar portion, it changes by month.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Positioning on the roof. Yeah. And
so the community solar is more productively positioned than the WMGLD?
So the WMLD is on this side and there is more hill cover and tree cover a little bit more on this side. As you get out that way towards the parking lot, it's a little bit more open, so.
It's also a larger system, the community solar. So generally, if taking over the course of the year, the community solar, rather our building solar runs at 80% of the community solar, which is that's like 79.8, but the size difference is exactly on that 80%. So it's like over the course of the year, it kind of hits that number like pretty much exact.
You also notice the days when they're longer and shorter.
Right. Well, I mean, look at March 2024 too, and I don't know, maybe some of the panels weren't up yet. I don't know.
I think it's probably the sun goes down quicker, so it doesn't probably catch the tail end of
Yeah.
the building.
But we just thought it'd be interesting information to share.
Oh, great. And any update on Ken?
I'm waiting to hear back. I asked his daughter, and she said they're gonna think about it
Okay,
in terms of a ribbon cutting. So that was about a week ago, I think. She said she would talk to him.
okay.
He has been seen in the square, so he gets out a little bit and he's been walking the square, so.
Yeah, he's a little bit more mobile now, but is he actually walking by himself or what? Does he have
Been
a?
walking with a walker.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's been seen around the square. A few people have run into him.
Okay.
And Olivia played bingo with him.
Really?
Oh, he wasn't at bingo. I only saw him. My grandmother's at Brightview, so I've seen him a couple times.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Next. I think cybersecurity is up.
Electric division first.
Oh, electric division.
All right, you want me to share my screen? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm assuming you guys remember, so Vinnie McMahon's our senior engineer. Abdir is our new system engineer. He's mostly focused on the electric side, but he is doing some of the GIS data for the gas side. Paul Redmond is our electric superintendent, but Paul had a death in the family, so he's not here. So Vinnie and Abdir are going to run the show.
All right, everybody. So this is kind of goals and what we're aiming to do this year. We've already done a lot. And Paul obviously isn't with us, so I'll cover his slides and explain a little bit about what he's going on. So in 2024, we did a lot. We put the solar up. We did a lot of work at the substations, including putting wave traps up for National Grid. And we turning Burns substation into a park. And there's a bunch of other projects that we started last year that we're carrying over into this year. And some things that we kind of do every year, like load balancing. So, and as far as Paul's stuff goes, he's kind of in charge of a lot of the conduit work we did last year. We installed 800 feet on Hemlock Road. That was a lot of conduit, and it went really well. We replaced a third of one of our underground feeders, which was maybe around 3,000 feet of underground cable. So really good to replace some cable from the 70s. And we continue to add some reclosers, open wire secondary, replacing a triplex. It's a lot nicer to look at and more reliable. And transformer load management, we use our transformer load management tool, and we use that multiple times per year, usually in the spring. And we can make sure we don't have any overloaded transformers in the system, and it works quite well.
Vinny, if I may, could you talk more about the aging pole replacement program? Because I've actually never heard of that.
Oh yeah, sure. So a few years ago, we did a pole inspection, the whole town. I think it was during COVID we did it. A pretty good way to use our crews and have them all separated. Um, we've been replacing a ton of poles since then. A lot of them are Verizon territory, and Verizon's been pretty good to us. I know a lot of people don't like them, but we have a good relationship with them. And we replaced 48 poles last year ourselves. And Verizon, we probably had do close to that. So, um, yeah, it's something we'd always stay on top on. We've had more of a focus on it in the last few years.
How long do these poles last? I've never heard of it.
Oh, 30 to 50 years. But again, a lot of these poles can be 30 to 50 years old.
I'm sure.
So during COVID, we took 3 of our junior guys, taught them how to inspect poles, and we touched every pole in the system. So they recorded it and they gave them a rating, and some were immediate and we did them in 20 and 21. Now we get into the ones that were in poor condition. So, but that's been going on. And Verizon undertook a similar effort. And so They can be, we touched every pole, including the Verizon set ones. Verizon then re-inspected their own set of poles. And I think you can probably see around town, some of them where they put a device that's meant to like add 10 years to the life of the pole. They put that metal thing and they painted it brown. So that's designed to add about 10 years to the life of the pole.
Verizon's been doing that. Do
Yeah.
we do that too?
We've been replacing them. So.
Yeah, we replace a lot of the times Verizon put the brace on, but the top of the pole is complete crap and it's not tall enough either. So their braces aren't always the best. So
We
cop
haven't
out.
found it worth it we're better off just replacing them. A lot of the times when we replace a pole, we also increase its height if it's in an area that we know we're going to upgrade it at some point in the future. So.
Mhm.
Thanks.
So yeah, a lot of big projects and maintenance work last year and continuing that into this year. So you all know about the energy park. I don't know if any of you have been by there. We've done a ton of work last few months. We've got a lot of conduit in, a lot of structures in. We're still on target to meet our online date of June 1st. And we've got generator stuff coming later this summer, some switchgear coming in the summer. And we're going to begin working on underground cable installations to the schools maybe this year into next winter. Everything's going very well. It's it's an ambitious project. It's really cool. It's been fun working on it.
And Jeff, you've been sharing pictures online, right? Is he still there? Ready to go? We lost Jeff. In the energy park section of our website, we've been sharing some pictures. The conduit work. One of the things that is something we're really proud of in this project that all our guys a lot of times like a substation type project like this, you would sub it out and put it out to bid to the whole thing. Our guys have been doing all the conduit work and they've been doing an amazing job. Vinny oversaw all the work. Once we got off of Hemlock Road into the property, it's a maze of conduit and they've done an amazing job. The contractor that's installing the battery system was blown away by the work that our guys did. So it was something we can be proud of. And they'll be proud of the energy park too, because they've had their hands on it since day one.
Yeah, and they built the Wakefield Ave substation too, so this is not even their first one. So they're very good at it.
Is the idea to be really active at the site over the summer or to be dormant and let everybody else be active?
No, we're just going to keep our foot on the gas on this one.
Okay.
It'll be cross coordination, in terms of the property itself. Everybody's worked well in terms of letting each other up and down the street. But we have a lot of work to still do in there. So we'll be, but the good part is the battery vendor and our guys have worked very well together. If they need to be in a certain area, our guys have gone to do other things and come back at different times. And the battery vendor hired our excavator. They hired B&E to do their excavation on their section. So the coordination's been much simpler.
Yep, definitely helps a lot to have just one excavator on site.
So just to answer your question too, is that the schedule for the project is that the battery vendor should be done in June. And then in June, then the site will be less congested because they'll be off-site. So then we'll shift our resources over to doing the generator foundation and the radiator foundation. We'll do those in June. And then in July, the switchgear is scheduled to be installed in July and the generator is scheduled to be installed in September. So once the equipment's installed during those periods, like in July, there's a lot of cable work that has to be done when the equipment's installed. So there's scheduled work, throughout the rest of the year into 2026. So there'll be site activity all the time going on.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. I'm assuming at both schools, they're going to try to get a ton done over the summer too.
They've been working like crazy.
Yeah, being that it'll be easier to get in and out.
Yep.
And I've seen the crews do all the overhead work on weekends too.
Yeah.
Every Saturday morning when I leave the house.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Yeah, we've kind of had to utilize Saturdays for this because the road is just too crazy sometimes and there's too many cars parked on it.
But once they have the shell up, it'll be all internal though, right?
We still have to get in and out and
Right.
but you can drive through the whole thing.
Aerial delivery.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
there's still trucks and
Yeah.
trailers coming in and out of there constantly.
and loading and unloading equipment and stuff. It's
Mhm.
Like even for us right now, we're coordinating the deliveries of all our large equipment that has to be staged and brought in cranes with the schools where we can stage them, what weekend we'll pick. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of coordination because the generator and the switchgear will have to be installed on a weekend because during the week the road is just lined with vehicles and there's not enough parking up in that area to have those vehicles park elsewhere. And the amount of room that we need to bring the equipment onto the site is you have to do it really on the weekend. So, there's a lot of coordination, and then that's just us, right? We're one small project, but they have the same thing. They have deliveries of they're going to start to get deliveries of all their equipment pretty soon, but all their building material for exterior and interior, or you see them up there lining on the side, the road and waiting to be delivered. So that's going to be busy all the way until 26 as well.
Yeah, they're
Just for
on
their
schedule
projects.
still. They're on
Yeah,
schedule for 2026 school year
yeah.
openings.
I
Uh,
mean, we meet with them and then, we'll talk about what we're doing so that all three projects are coordinated on their activities. So if there's something that we're going to do on Hemlock Road, we want to make sure that they know in advance so they can prepare for it. And the three projects aren't scheduling work at the exact same time. So there's a lot of coordination.
So speaking of coordination, I've been working with both schools on both of their solar arrays, which we're going to be the owner of those, and the designs are basically done at this point. It's been really interesting working on a of a building that doesn't exist fully yet because their design's kind of going in parallel with ours. Um, the company we've been using, NeoVertis, has been really, really good with the solar engineering. So they'll probably going to be going to bid pretty soon for these arrays, and we're going to try to reach a few more bidders this time, which I think we should be able to, no problem. We've been over there, you've seen that we've already reconducted one of the circuits down Hemlock Road, and we'll probably be doing the other one, in a few months maybe. Um, we're going to be installing a recloser temporarily because the microgrid setup isn't going to be ready this summer. So we have to connect the battery to our system with something. So that recloser was already ready to go. I'll probably be putting it up pretty soon. And yeah, these schools are going to use a lot of power. The battery's going to be able to charge with 200 amps of current at 13.8 kV. So we had to upgrade the wire on the road to 477. It was only 1 aught before, so it really wasn't even rated to charge the battery. So now we'll be plenty good.
Any
So
other
yeah,
question about the solar
sure.
uh, that we're going out for bid? Is it just an open bid or do we have a closed bid where we have certain developers that we want to?
No, it'll be an open bid. We'll probably send it to a few people to get them to bid on, like some of the bigger solar companies in Massachusetts, just so we get more attention with it. I mean, they should. These are huge solar arrays, so I think people will want to do this one. And both of these systems we designed them to be fully ballasted, so there's not going to be any roof penetrations, which is also attractive for the solar company, less for them to worry about. Kind of the beauty of building it on a school that was designed for solar. Been working on the fiber optic system a lot lately. Ours is already pretty good. Just the records haven't always been the best. We had to design. We've had reliant contractors for designs in the past, but I'm doing those in-house now. And we just upgraded. We had to work with Peabody Light to get fiber through Linfield to get to Kimball Lane, and that's all hooked up now. It's really good. Now we have a much better connection for our SCADA, much more reliable. and it's good for security systems, live video feeds and stuff like that. So it was about 4,000 feet of fiber, so it was a good amount.
What we originally had from Kimball Lane to our system was a point-to-point antenna system that went from the top of the building at Kimball Lane to Salem Street and then back to us. So that antenna, system had its reliability issues. So now Vinny was able to get it onto the fiber. So the communication with Kimball Lane is much more reliable.
And this last point down here, we actually just applied for a grant, which we're pretty confident in getting because it seems like a bunch of other towns are getting it for like $200,000 to build out our fiber system a little bit more. So we're going to be adding it on a few streets where we would like to have it and we don't.
So what's Peabody have to do? Peabody serves out of Linfield? Because I thought Reading served.
No, Peabody serves
is
that
the
side
other
of
half.
Linfield. So Linfield is split. Peabody has half and Reading has half. And the Kimball Lane station is on the Peabody half.
No, cool.
Got some things going on at BB as well, but the main thing that we're doing soon is we got to do a swap of these two circuits here. We're actually changing the bus they're on to help spread out all the distributed energy we have. Otherwise, it would be backfeeding to national grid. So we are moving the new battery onto bus one at BB, which doesn't have any DER on it right now. So that's happening next week. And we're also getting rid of some lead cable in the process, which is nice.
And is that because of the school projects or
No,
more
it's because of the energy park.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because the energy park is going to, put back, around 300 amps of current. And sometimes the substation section that's on a lower load day doesn't even have 300 amps on it. So we would end up backfeeding to national grid, and that's not financially beneficial for us. So
We like our friends from National Grid, but not that much.
yeah, we don't want to give them anything for free. But yeah, we've been working with Grid a lot lately on stuff. They're working on their wave drive project right now, and ours are already installed, and we'll be talking to them next week before we do this. But yep, all good there, BB. It's an old station, but it's going good. 200 Quanah Parkway. Paul's been working on this a lot. We've got most of the cable pulled in up here. We just brought some meters up today. So they're going to be energizing some of the buildings over the next few months. Pretty exciting. It's going to be a lot of load up there, probably 2 megawatts, maybe even more. So we're rearranging a little bit of the circuits to distribute the load a bit more evenly between the stations. So that's going well.
What was the load when the Sentinel data center or Digital Realty cut? Whatever, I forget what that was.
They used around 2.5 megawatts.
Okay, so
This will be similar. Yeah, it should be pretty close. It won't be as consistent as the data center though. Data center uses the same load basically.
7 by 24 by 365.
It's like the ideal customer.
It really is, yeah. So yeah, this will still be a good amount of load though.
It's amazing how fast this project's gone because we were at the groundbreaking on July 2nd. When they put the shovels in the ground and they took the pictures, that was July 2nd of last year. And so we're still 3 months away from the 1 year anniversary, and there's a lot done up there.
Yeah, that's insane. And we reconducted a section of Lowell Street that had some old spacer cable. We upgraded the feeder size to 477. That was kind of related to the Quanah Power project. So it's going to kind of help us, again, utilize one of our circuits a little bit better. So, I mean, yeah, here's just a calendar of kind of everything I just talked about. Not too much more to say on that. Does anyone have any questions or anything before we move on to Abdir's section? All right, Abdir, you're up.
Hi everyone.
Do you want to share your screen? Do you have this up right now?
No, it's fine. You can.
Okay.
We're not done this one. Yeah,
I'll move it when you want me to.
yeah, yeah. Um, First thing I want to thank Peter and Dave and Vinny for having me with the team as a electrical engineering, using my background to help them out with mitigate the electrification of the world. So they in Wakefield. Um, Last year when I was internship, me and Dave, we planned to integrate the implement the EVs and the heat pump on the integrator as a project. We did after a few months when working together, and we did implement it in the GIS. So that's allowed us to manage the load more closely, and we can check the each transformer that they have like more than one EV or two or three sometime. So we've been able to like see what the time that need to be upgraded to a big transformer, for example, if we need to. That give us a little bit of relief that we don't have to each application for EVs charger. We have to hurry and make changes because we can see now how the people they behave, how they charge a car when they charge the car, especially with the time of use. Help us also to see the trend when they really plug their vehicle and how much load from that like so a lot of factors that we've been having to help us uh, like updating our transformer and crib on the on comfort zone or comfort time, so we don't have to worry about the growth of the EVs. Also, we can see which area that has more concentrated of EVs. Like we can tackle those and think about it, how we can update their secondary cables and stuff on ahead. We can plan a little bit ahead and prepare for the growth in that area because it seems to be a lot of people, they buying those EVs and they want to install EV chargers and that. So that kind of the 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 help that we when we have this EVs integrated on the GIS. And we have a good example after Vinny can move to other slide, and we can show you one of the good example that this area here, they have four EVs. So, but we didn't upgrade the transformer yet because we can manage the load and see that we've been running only one time more than 100%. So that give us a little bit time to upgrade this and upgrade the secondary. So we don't have to like worry about that. We have four EVs on this transformer since we know the resident, they already um, charging in the off-peak hours. They don't charge on the during the hour that kind of get us nervous. Then we have to rush and make a lot of effort to be updated quicker and keep the record on the updated. But this is like close management for us to be more taking more time to upgrade it on our schedule. We don't have to make it like a rush on something. And that's all. Can you move to the next one? So I've been working with the gas department also too. So to update their GIS and meet the 60-day DPO requirement. So I've been working with Raven, the gas department, and their engineering. So to make sure we are up to the date. So for their GIS. So and this is good opportunity for me to have to use. Use GIS and use my background, electrical engineering, as a, uh, you know, uh, something that I can improve in the municipal. So it's a really good opportunity for me, and thank everyone for the help that I get from this place. Thank you. Do you have any questions so far?
I, go ahead.
Dear, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
Um,
welcome.
about the EV and the heat pump, um, the data,
Yeah.
does that come from our service upgrade applications and then it gets plugged into this ARC GIS system or?
Yes, we come for most of the like the size It comes from when they apply, they give us the size of the heat pump. And well, the charger level, we know we allowed only the level 2, which is we know they they don't more than
Okay,
two more than 40 amps. So we know exactly, and we know the size of the heat pump, so we know exactly the load for this additional. So we can prepare for our like if we need to upgrade now or not, or we can know the when we can take action. So help
okay.
us a little bit with
So,
the yeah.
so it's a maybe combination of information from like our energy efficiency program rebates and time of use or
Yes,
charging
yes,
program
exactly.
enrollment and possibly a service upgrade.
Yes, exactly. We have
And
load
all that
management, which is
data.
yeah, we have load management, which is keep us like watching closely the like I said, the area that has the growth of this EVs and the heat pump, but also we have more information sometime from the application through the application and through the rebate. When they apply for rebate, we get like a size and heat pump and which if they want to just upgrade their heat and keep the oil, or they want to move electric 100%, or they it's something like we get it from both sides. So it's help us to manage the load and keep them updated.
Okay.
And it's not just a service upgrade request. They have to fill it out anytime they have they're increasing their load. So service upgrades, they have to fill out an application. If they're adding an EV charger, they have to fill out an application. If they're adding a heat pump, anything that requires them to pull an electrical permit, they have to contact us first. And then we look at what they're proposing to do that would add load to our system. And then we review that, we approve it, and we issue them a number, like a service order number, and then they use that to go pull their electrical permit. So we're integrated right now with the electrical department, but we're trying to capture all the load increases that the customers are doing, and then so we can evaluate it and monitor the system based on that information. And then, like you said, um, Abdir said he uses the other information for more detailed um, data for heat pump sizes and through the rebate program and such.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple of questions. Abby, first of all, welcome. I don't
Thank
think
you.
I've met you yet.
Thank you.
On the slide we're looking at, I have questions on both of the bullets. So let me understand. So this ArcGIS, is this separate from the gas? Like, I guess,
So gas and electric have different
This
layers.
is this is the gas. This is the last one gas. The first two, it was electric.
Yeah, so the GIS system has layers. So there's a gas
Yeah.
layer, there's electric layer. So he's maintaining data in both layers.
right. So what I'm confused about is what we're saying, improve it for extensions and services. I thought all that was already in the GIS system. That's what I'm confused about.
But anytime we touch one, it has to be updated within 60 days. So we're touching a lot of both the main and the service upgrades that we do. That data has to be updated for the DPU, but within 60 days.
Or any changes that,
Right.
but it's all in the system as it is right now.
Yeah,
So that's what I thought. So I guess I didn't understand why.
Replacement with plastic pipe, they would have to go and change the attribute from, let's say, cast iron
Right, to keep it up to
plastic.
date.
yeah.
But I thought this was saying that it's not even, that the services aren't even in there. That's what.
No, it's just the updates that are required.
Yeah, just update. Yeah.
Excellent.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
What's that, Vinny?
I have a question that's, oh, go.
No, go ahead.
This one's a little bit not on topic. It's kind of a
Mine is technical for Vinny. On the BB upgrade, have you looked into whether 3v0 protection is needed on any of the transformers, given the size of the DG that is going to be on either one of them, or no? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Vin.
Sorry about that. Yeah, PLM looked into it for us, and I was just talking to him the other day about it actually. And he said, given the proximity to the stations, of the largest DG load because we have one of them is at the station, and the other one is about, maybe a mile away, so it's not super far. He said he'd be more concerned if they were really far out on the feeders, but he didn't seem worried about it. And he sent me the study, which I haven't had time to review yet, but they did one um, before this project started. So I'm sorry, I don't have like a great answer for you, but
No, that's
we
fine. As long as you take a look at it.
yeah.
So we have an agenda item later on to talk about the impact on, I believe it's the impact of tariffs on energy procurement. But I want to know, have you, with Vinny and Abdir in the room, have you talked about the impact of tariffs on material costs? So to actually improve the distribution system or build energy supply. It's a bit early days, but do you think there will be major impacts to our projects that are going on in the next year that we're now out for procurement right now? Assuming the answer is yes, but maybe we don't know, but I'm just curious if you had any
Yeah, I
discussions about
mean the solar panels are the first thing I think of. I mean, a lot of the electrical gear we buy is made in the US anyways.
And
Um,
transformer, I think the one we talk
uh,
about, me and
no,
Vinny.
most of the transformers we're going to be buying now are made in the US, so
Okay.
won't be as big of a deal. But obviously, some precious metals and stuff come from China. But I'm not so sure about copper, but copper's already up really high. So I mean, we've already seen prices of things increasing due to the threat of tariffs alone. So, um, but yeah, I think solar panels are the main thing I immediately think of that's going to go up a lot. But who knows? We also are lucky enough to have a pretty good stock of expensive items right now, like transformers. So, you know, we don't really know if these tariffs will last very long. They probably realistically can't, but you never know. Um, but hopefully it can help us get through the worst of it.
Yeah, I think the layered strategy that we've taken on since COVID started has been helpful because Transformers, the lead times blew out to 2 years. Now they're coming back into a little more sane level. But Vinny's been very diligent about like ordering Transformers on a regular basis to keep a trickle coming in. So I think that's going to help us a little bit. A lot of the stuff that we're getting for the Energy Park project is already on order and en route, so we haven't been approached about any concerns or issues with that at this point. Like Vinny said, though, the one thing that we don't have pricing on is the solar, so that's probably the biggest risk we face right now.
I thought that we were sourcing our transformers from like Mexico or something, but you said the US we're getting.
They vary greatly. I mean, sometimes they come from different countries, but usually they're made in the US, but some of their components might come from other countries. So,
Wow.
but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they, manufacturers take advantage of the situation and charge us more money like they did in COVID. I mean, I remember when a 50 kVA transformer cost $1,200. That was in 2019. Now they're 5,000 each. So um, they're certainly taking advantage of the situation. I think the demand is high for them, so why not?
Mark calls it a yard full of toilet paper up on Salem Street.
Transformers that we have, like toilet paper during COVID. You can't get enough, can't get enough. We've started hoarding them, so.
Good to have.
You'd complain more if there were not enough.
Yeah.
So that's all I got. If anyone else has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off.
Thanks, Vinny. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Nice talking to you
Good
all.
night. Good night, guys. Thank
See you
you.
later.
Hey, nice
Yeah.
job.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
In terms of the project updates, we talked a lot about the Energy Park. The other big project is the website upgrade. Joe, Olivia, Jeff, and I had a meeting with Ann and the developer today. They're already off to a good start. And so we saw some sample screens, but it's moving along. And I think they're using the latest tool for WordPress, and the cost I think is going to be pretty reasonable. So we're going to bring it in under 20 grand. So I think the I think it's moving along, so. We should have some prototypes within the next month or so to really look at, but he's moving quickly, so.
Will we invite those that participated in the forum back to
I was thinking about that. That would be a good idea.
show, here's.
I thought it was among the best $250 we ever spent the first time, so I wouldn't mind spending another $250 to have them come back.
They were very excited to be
Yeah.
participating in the
Nice.
focus group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it would be great to, for especially to close the loop with them, is say, thank you for your time for the focus group. Here's the product of
Your feedback.
Your feedback. And then have, they may have more feedback that's beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, even if we get a handful of them back, it would be helpful because, like I said, I thought it was a great thing that we did because we got actionable stuff that we fixed on the current website plus design criteria for the new stuff, and I think we've incorporated a lot of, if not all, of their comments. So it'd be great to see if they agree that we're capturing what they need. Anything else, Liv, from the design session today?
I don't think so. I think that was pretty much covered it.
Okay.
And Liv had Houston last night, so she's still upset.
I still beat you, Pete. That's all I care.
Any other project updates? If not, we'll move to cybersecurity. Hi, Jeff.
Oh, hello. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I am going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. So I promise I'll be brief. I've only got 3 slides, not including this one. The first slide never counts. But Pete, he asked me to say a few words about a couple of recent events and some things we're doing and have been doing for a while. So first, I'll go over a couple of the incidents that happened. They hit a little close to home. First, I think I went too many there. Oh, I didn't. My notes are out of order. The Littleton incident. This happened back in 2023, but the report about the fact that it happened didn't come out until about a month ago. As we understand it, a user fell for a phishing attack, and that allowed a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group known as Volt Typhoon to gain access to their infrastructure, to their IT assets. And they spent over 300 days on their system snooping around until the FBI saw it and told the folks at Littleton what was going on. Then the FBI said, leave it alone. We're not going to kick them off yet. We want to see what they're doing. So they actually let them stay on another 30 days until they finally kicked them out and reworked their network and all that. So that was a very eye-opening report to read, but it was also very close to home. One that was even closer to home is the Emwick incident, and I'm not sure if you all heard about this one. Emwick, yeah, Emwick, they touch our system with VPN connections. They've got some digital fingers on our system, and they got hit with ransomware this year. And as soon as we heard about it, we disabled their connection to everything on our side. The compromise was contained to certain data stores and their ESXi hosts with zero evidence that it spread anywhere else. Nonetheless, we didn't reestablish their connection back to our system until after they were verified clean. and then we opened up their connection again. So these were
I think
very, go ahead.
I think that's very important that, and I got an update on this back in December. The bad actors are so much more sophisticated than even, they don't care about your bank account and your credit card number anymore. They get much deeper now. Like Jeff said about the Littleton situation, they'll lay in wait because they don't know what they hacked into. They hacked into something. They don't know what Littleton Light is. They don't know. So they lay in wait and study and try to figure out what you do and how much you're worth to them. And so that's both in the Emmer case and in the Littleton case. These bad actors are not going in and trying to steal credit card and bank account numbers as much anymore. This still happens, but it's more important to them to really try to find the big fish and figure out how you can get more out of a company and how much you've gotten in and compromised them. And so that's the state of the cybersecurity world now.
Exactly. Yeah, and it depends on what goal they have. If they have a goal of, just getting money from a company, they'll do that. If they have a goal of trying to find out if you're part of a utility industry, and they snoop around until they know who you are and what they've got at their fingertips. So they're definitely active. But ever since since my last presentation, which was only a few months ago, we've been very active anyways. As you know, 2024 was the year of cybersecurity for the IT department. It was really a focus, and we did a lot last year, but we haven't stopped now. We've done quite a bit. Well, that's a misplaced D there. Sorry about that. So we've been continually increasing our personnel awareness regarding cybersecurity through our cybersecurity campaign 2025. Some examples of what we've done. We've had 3 company-wide classes scheduled during the month of March that focused on cybersecurity. So everyone in the company will go through these class times and kind of catch up on what we've done, why we're doing it, how it impacts them, what it can do to help them at home as well. So we're doing quite a bit to kind of elevate the awareness of the user. We had already scheduled to do a cybersecurity tabletop exercise in March, which was very thorough. The folks who ran it, Utility Services of Vermont, I think most of you are familiar with them. They hosted it. It was very thorough. They hit us from every direction to see what our disaster recovery and response plan was, and they really put our policy to the test. The good news is it survived. We came out with a few little tweaks to the policy, and it went well. Another thing we've done is we had an external vulnerability test done recently. We did very well on that. Part of the reason we did well on that is because when it comes to public-facing sites, our public-facing websites, I have them all hosted by a third-party company that specializes in maintaining the security and keeping the bad guys out. So I knew we were going to do well on that, but it was good to have it done anyways. The really good news that came out of that test was that there is very little mention of WMGLD in the dark world. I think all we had was a couple of names from people who'd retired years ago. So other than that, we're really not known to the bad actors. Why that's such good news is it means, one, they haven't attacked us and they have no information on us, and 2, we haven't been made a target. So we'll take those as wins. And that's all I've got to deliver today. I told you I'd be brief.
Any questions? I know Tom had asked for an update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm just curious on the MWEX situation. So you said that we immediately disconnected them from our system.
Yes.
So like how quick is immediate? Like walk me through like how they discovered it, and how they notified you and how quick it is for you to actually go and disconnect them?
Well, the disconnecting them, that was less than, I think, 45 minutes before we verified, yes, this is for real. These reports are real. Cut them off. No questions asked. As far as the timing of, when they got hit and when we disconnected them, I believe they didn't actually let everyone know for.
But they took action on their side. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they had already taken action before they let us know. But
yeah.
I think it was some days. I'm not sure, day or two, three. I'm not sure. But as soon as they told us, we're like, okay, yeah,
But
glad you took.
they had already taken action on their side to break from us as well.
Right. And they were literally back up and running, I think, a day and a half. So they apparently have a very good, response plan as well. So, hooray for them. Good for them.
Do you know if they paid the ransom, or is that
They did
something?
not
No.
pay the ransom.
They didn't.
Nope, they
Okay.
didn't need to.
So they have an insurance provider and a counsel that guided them through the whole process. It occurred on a Sunday morning, and they thought everybody's sleeping at that time, but the system notified right away. They were in for less than 40 minutes when they discovered the breach, cut them off, and they were able to obtain some data from MWEC. They spent the next several days. The ransom request didn't come right away. So the council advised them to isolate, make sure you're covering your tail and try to identify what data they did get. And then when the ransom request came, Emmerich had already determined that there was nothing of operational value and minimal data value. And so but they were requested to like the FBI case on the Littleton side, they were requested to string them along for a while and engage in a negotiation with the ransomware provider so that the insurance provider could understand based on the value of what they were asking for, what they actually had. And they really didn't have anything because the value to start was very low. And so that dance went on for about 2 weeks before it finally became. So they were already separate. They weren't in the system at that point, but the dance with the ransomware players went on for about 2 weeks so that they could.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that's how they build the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're building a case, not to
Yeah.
go too much, but yeah, they're building a case against them
Yeah.
and trying to also figure out who it is to potentially
Yeah.
bring
Did we
charges.
know who? Did they find out who?
That stuff's confidential right now, but the point is that the game is
Yes.
it's a practiced game now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that.
Go ahead, Pete. Yeah, the FBI actually never really tells the general public who they know most of the bad actors out there, but they're not going to tell us until they can benefit from leaking names or agencies out to the public. And that's more of a way of letting the bad guys know, hey, we know who you are. But they're not, a lot of times they're just sitting on those names, sitting on those agencies, waiting for the proper time to either go after them or leak information.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it's very sophisticated now. Like I said, the update I got in December, not only is the end user, but now they've infiltrated the communication systems. So they're stealing data in transit as opposed to on our SCADA system or on MWEC SCADA system that they're grabbing it en route sometimes. That's the risk. And it was talked about in December. There was a big press conference while I was down in DC to talk about that aspect of the whole cybersecurity world now too.
Yeah, you'll probably notice, well, I'm not sure whether you will or not, but I know I've noticed on my side a lot of emails that used to come through in clear text. Now we are sending and receiving encrypted so that if it does get intercepted, it's encrypted and the bad actors can't decipher it. So you'll see that probably more and more. Yeah.
When I heard about the Littleton incident, I was just in that fact that they were on the system for like over 300 days. I mean, I'm just concerned that they're understanding how a municipal light plant, operates and using that information to infiltrate, other
Yeah. Well,
similar
almost
entities.
across, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost across the board, it's the bad actors are in what we call invited in by someone clicking a wrong email, clicking that email, putting information in a that they think is secure. It's not. They're going to be typically invited in by a user. So
Yeah.
user awareness, that was why I had already scheduled the class times to be able to kind of elevate the user's urgency and slow the mouse clicks down. Question everything. When in doubt, throw it out. I mean, they know my mantras now, So, yep.
I get so suspicious these days, like at work. I get an email from like National Grid Corporate. I'm like, that's a phishing.
What's the motto, Jeff?
What's that?
What's the motto?
When in doubt, throw it out.
When in doubt, throw it
Oh,
out.
and the other one is if you walk, you lock. You walk away from your computer for any length of time, lock it. Anyone could go in your office and play around. If you walk, you lock. So, and we'll build on those little mantras that kind of help people to remember the bigger picture, but in a smaller, a smaller cranial area. So,
I'm just curious if the other commissioners receive emails like I do from vendors trying to sell different software systems. And do you guys get all that
Sometimes,
stuff?
yeah, sometimes.
Okay. You don't get
No.
that?
Not related to the department here, but
Yeah.
plenty from other
What do
sources.
you mean to WMGL through
Yeah,
our?
I get it to me as a commissioner.
I don't get anything through my WMGLD.
Really?
Rarely, yeah.
Huh? You? No?
I get a few, but most of them are going to spam.
Yeah.
And if it does make it through the spam filter, delete.
Yeah.
I have not, in my role, I have no, like, a vendor has no interest, or I have no interest in a vendor. It's not my role.
We should always delete those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I delete most of the cold sales calls. I delete most of those as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
all right, everyone. Have a great night.
I can
You
sleep
too.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here. Me too.
Next up, large building energy reporting update. I put this on here because I just wanted to know what the status was. Given the last time we met, there was a lot of issues. Wonder if there was any. Seems like the issues are still persisting.
Yes. So the list, Olivia can update you. The list went from 146 down to like 136, but the data quality is not that much improved. Liv, you can talk about what we found in the terms of the data quality.
Yeah, so I looked a lot into it and found that a lot of the building owners, people didn't claim their buildings still. And then so for those who didn't claim their buildings, the building owners aren't correct. So that's a problem. And then we don't know about square footage, and there's still a lot of duplicates on the list, which can be confusing. So I did join a info session webinar today for public entities through the DOER. Joe and I both did. But it was kind of a lot of the same information. They also didn't have answers to some of the questions that were being asked. So I would say they don't have all the information right now.
Yeah. But the good news is we learned that Liv's sister owns an entire condo building because she's listed as she's listed as the responsible party for her entire condo building.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I started to
Something
figure
was wrong.
that out because I was like, oh, that's weird. But
So,
yeah.
but the large building reporting issue is that the municipal community still strongly feels that we're not part of this. So MEM nominated a committee to work directly with the state. Nick Scova reached out to Rebecca Tepper. She appointed two counsel and uh, a guy named Mark Rabinski, who's with the DOER, and me nominated myself, Mike Cloutier, and Joe Solicito to represent the Muni community. We've been back and forth. We met today actually at 12 o'clock to discuss the concerns. It was acknowledged that we have serious issues with the way it is. What we provided a red line of regulations that we could move the. One of the things I've tried to update you, we're not necessarily opposed to the state's requirement that they need to get this building data. We're not sure why they want the data, and they're not actually sure why they want the data. But the reality is that's not the issue. The issue is the regulatory part of it, and the fact that they're trying to take a law that doesn't even include us and actually specifically excludes us and now make us part of it through regulation. So that was the issue. We shared all those points with them today. So we have a request for a restraint, a hold on our requirement to be part of this in any way, pending revision of the regulation. And we've talked about ways that we can help them and work with them to get the data that they're looking for, but it can't be through the regulation. And so that was all discussed today. So we've given them a copy of a stay, a copy of our red lines of the regulation, and then a presentation on why we feel that we're not part of this, dating back to the history of public power in Chapter 164. So that was received, and their lead counsel, Ben Dobbs, has all that. And so we're hoping to meet again within the next 2 weeks to go over all that. So I think it was productive. I think they understand where we're coming from. Mike Cloutier almost lost it when
Were
Mike,
you representing Wakefield or were you representing?
I'm representing Meme, all 40.
Okay, okay.
But I'm also representing Wakefield because we.
I mean, in this capacity.
Yeah. So at one point they said, we don't know how we got to this point. Why was the regulation issued before you guys said anything? And I stayed calm. Mike almost blew a gasket because we basically said, where have you guys haven't been listening. Yeah, we've been talking about this for well over a year, and we have been telling you this, and you guys still promulgated the regulation, even though we practically stood on your desk and told you that you shouldn't until we fix these issues. So besides that, it went well.
So what's the next? So
Next
they
step.
received all that information. They're going to.
So we redlined the regulation.
Yeah.
We asked for a stay of any involvement of communities, and we'll see how they react to that because, I think and we do have the power to, and we were very clear that we will sue on this because we can't let them in this particular scenario regulate when we're specifically called out in the law that we're not part of this.
So then just to flesh this out, the group, the subcommittee will continue working with the state.
Yes.
Okay, even though this has been, this information, the stay is happening.
Yeah. So the whole idea is we understand where they're coming from and we understand what they want. And honestly, we've told them also that we're going to get to the bottom line of the list faster than any IOU is going to, because Liv's been studying the list and he knows what's wrong with the list. Right. I'm not sure if the IOUs have even had a chance to look at their list, but I'm sure it's thousands of times bigger than ours. And I'm sure they don't even know what's wrong with it, but I know we do know what's wrong with ours. And so I think that they can get to the bottom line quicker if they work with us and if we work with them. So Liv was able to determine, you have a problem with condos because you're listing one condo owner as the responsible party. You have a problem with campuses like Herring Pond because, again, you're treating it like it's a factory and it's not. It's a large condo complex. And so all those data issues are real, and then you have large buildings that have 50 tenants, and you have large buildings that have one tenant, and you have large buildings that are owned by a holding company and 2 meters within it. So there's a lot of different issues with the data. And so we've been able to unsurface, all of those, and I'm not sure where they are in the rest of the world on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we should do this, but like, if we were to try to resolve all the data issues, based on the information that we have, and I mean, because it's only 130 something buildings, how long would it take us to fix that? Or to create a
I did
workable
that
list?
for our municipal buildings in 2 months.
Yeah. But it was only a fixed list of buildings, and it's still, the data issue is one. But the issue becomes that the building owner, so it was municipal building, so we had control with the.
Correct.
Yeah.
We had a partner.
We had a partner.
Partners who knew.
Right now.
Yeah.
So
Get the answers from.
you have
Yes.
to remember that the building owners need to fix it because they're required to provide other information.
I understand.
So we can't even fix it. So what we were told on March 31st was that the deadline to fix all the data was March 31st. So here's the final list. But the reality is a lot of people didn't even, for example, Olivia's sister's condo didn't even know that they had a problem because they had Olivia's sister as the contact.
Yeah.
So to fix all that data, but the large building owners need to be the ones that fix the database.
Right.
And some of them don't even know, and some of them do know and don't care. And so there's a lot of different issues with that. So we can help identify what the main issues are, but ultimately the large building owners need to fix the data because, again, they're responsible for if they don't have gas heat and they have oil, they're responsible for updating that data. So
We wouldn't have that information.
Yeah.
So what is this subcommittee going to do next?
Wait to hear a response from what we provided them today. We're scheduled to meet again on April 17th.
April 17th. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to correct some information we previously discussed, which is Boston and Cambridge have already done this. They did this years ago. So all of the Boston and Cambridge buildings have been set for a while and cleaned up. That data is fixed. It took like 3 to 4 years anecdotally for Boston to get through this process.
Okay.
So I don't know that the state must know that this isn't going to be resolved tomorrow, that this is a large project and it will take years to get this done.
Cambridge came second and they were faster. And it's interesting to note that they don't require the utility to be the reporting entity. The building owners are required as reporting entity.
So a lot of the buildings have been done in the two biggest communities, but then this is now being extended to the rest of the state.
And logically, the responsibility should be on the owner of the building, because I don't see how any utility has that information or how
the complete information. We have a piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a piece of it, but
so we can provide it directly to them. And so that's what we're saying. We'll provide it to the building owner. They claim that it's efficiency, but in the same sentence, he actually said, but the building owner is ultimately the responsible party, and we do realize that other information needs to come from them. So it's not really more efficient for us to provide it. It's more efficient for us to provide it to the building owner. And that's what we've been saying.
Yeah, so they've sent out cards or letters to the presumed building owner, but if that person is not really like Olivia's sister, not the building owner,
or
they just throw it away, right? Because
or if it's just an entity on paper that's
I mean
you have corporations that own buildings, you have holdings that own buildings. I mean, building could be in foreclosure as well. Like there are lots of scenarios that
the largest customer in Mansfield is a company that produces like shelving for displays and demos. They're a tenant in the building. The building owner is a different entity. And so, you have to resolve that issue. They occupy 100% of the building, but they're not the building.
Yeah, they have a landlord. Okay. Well, that's, I'm glad we are involved. I'm sorry, Olivia. But, it's best to kind of bring these issues to the fore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, I think Meme has been very proactive in terms of what we offered the state today, in terms of the markup of the language so that we can start a dialogue that even though we have been telling them for over a year what our concerns were, we have a red line markup of the language that we provided to the state that we could live with. And I think, the action, put the action onto them. So hopefully we can get forward progress.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, now next, commercial time of use EV rate. Very exciting.
Yeah, so I think last meeting, kind of we looked at kind of the structure that we were drafting, and you guys wanted to see it in a draft rate form. So that's kind of what we put together for this month. So it's a rate that's actually it's a rate A and then a rate B. So we figured that's like the easiest way to try to encompass the two different scenarios. The first one is not for resale. Rate A is not for resale, so that's kind of like private. So that would be fleet charging is a lot of the times where we would see that, or places where it's not open to the public. And so for that one, because the key issue I think on the commercial side is the public access chargers, the breakdown of on peak versus off peak. We see it at the head of the lake or other public chargers. It's 66% to 34%, or it's harder to control that to get closer to 0% on peak. But if it's designed not for resale, similar to the residential rate that we passed a couple of years back, you can get a lot closer to that 0%. Ideally, you would get it to that 0%, so on peak. So in light of that, for the not resale, it's basically the same rate as the residential. So it's got but the base rate is based on the small commercial rate instead of the residential rate. So it's a 5 cent savings. And then I believe it's a 5 times multiplier on the energy charge. So it's pretty punitive, but again, it's a situation where because it's not open to the public, they have control over that charger. So that's kind of the first rate, and then the second, the rate B, is kind of those larger applications and the ones that are open to the public. So it's got the demand charge in there that's slightly reduced. Customer charge is reduced a little bit as well, similar to the residential and then the rate type A as well. Um, so we feel like that covers the different kind of rate cases, or or commercial cases, pretty well, because you have the public facing and then you have the internal, the private facing. So that's kind of what we landed on.
So just a question about the rate A that's not for resale. So that's the target customer is fleet vehicles. So like,
Yeah, that
yes.
and like an apartment, I would say an apartment complex that like only if it's only people that live at that apartment complex would be using those chargers. I think that's kind of the same type of situation I think I would see.
Okay.
And the behavior, so for, charging for resale, the behavior, we're really kind of limited in the behavior that we could shape away from, on-peak charging on, or, somebody pulls up off the highway and I need to charge to get home, right? I have to pay what I have to pay versus, at a residential building, 400 units or whatever, that type of thing. They can modify their behavior. I would be prone to modify my behavior if I could switch to charging at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night or on the overnight period. right?
Mhm.
Or a fleet, a landscaper that owns a bunch of
Mhm.
vehicles, just plug them in and walk away and they charge overnight and in the morning they're all set. So,
Mhm. Did we, given that commercial operations are different than residential, um, did we do a little survey of what kind of fleets do we have in Wakefield? Because if, the rate is not designed with the fleet's, um, usage in mind, then the uptake is not gonna be great.
as far as I know, we don't have any all electric. I mean, Joe can speak
We
to
have one landscape company that has a few of them.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
kind of,
The largest fleet.
yeah. Yeah, we're the largest, right?
Just,
But again, it's trying to design something for the future
Yeah.
where people potentially cut over to, because right now, there's one landscaper that met us up at the head of the lake when we did that charger.
right.
We're not really aware of anybody else that's gone in that direction yet. So, but again, it's trying to lay the groundwork for what might come in the future.
Mhm.
Well, and it potentially will save depending on how much charging is used too, if it it will save them kind of the customer charge too, because the customer charge if you have to put a demand meter in there, they'd be part of the demand rate. They're paying $60 a month for that, where we kind of strip that away and consider it kind of small commercial application because I mean, it's not like a whole building using a bunch of electricity. It's kind of that interesting area between.
So if you're on this and you have like 10 chargers, do you get one customer charge or 10 customer charges?
I think you get one. I think you could probably
It's
link all the
That's for the
charges up.
site.
Is it charge, the customer charges per meter?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I would say it's one because behind the meter, you can have as many charges as your service supports.
Yep. So it looks to me like the public where you're saying it's like harder to shift. There's like less of a um there's still a huge difference, but less of a difference between the off and on peak than on the other. So is that
made up with the demand charge. So
okay,
there's no demand on the,
got it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus it's
Yeah.
the not for resale.
Okay.
There's no
Yeah.
demand.
Yeah.
Are we, I know that we don't have any, well, actually, we do have a public charger with the gas station, the
Noria, yeah.
Noria. As we roll this out, we'll be helping to educate those in terms of, educating them on how to appropriately rate set their chargers if they so desire to have a higher charge during their on peak so that customers can make potentially an informed decision to charge or not charge and have some of that behavior shaping based.
They have the same, so they have the same data, like from the head of the lake, those level 3 chargers, they can pull that same data set from their charger and they can. Right, yeah.
What brand of charger is that?
I don't remember. Most of them are going to have similar
Is it,
capabilities, and if you are going to install something,
what is it, a charge point or?
No, it's not a charge.
It's a EV Go. Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
I can look it up.
So the B rate is not, it could be for like a landlord that owns a bunch of apartment buildings and they want to install their own charger. Or it could be for like a charge point. This rate could, apply for a charge point.
So the differentiation is for, internal consumption or you know, the end user, right? It's metered to the end user
Yeah.
versus for resale. That's how it's split apart, right? So, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, I mean, if I'm the end user, I can shape my consumption.
Right, but I'm just saying the customer for the resale charge, it could be a landlord or it could be like a charge.
It's like the
point.
management company or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So the distribution, so for CEV TOUA, the distribution charge is lower for on-peak than it is for off-peak.
I noticed that as well.
Yeah, because it's based on, so the A rate is based off of the small commercial rate. So that in the distribute, that's 5 cents off of that, or rather, I'm sorry, you're talking about the distribution charge, but still, I mean, it applies that way. It's based off, A is based off the small commercial rate, whereas B is based off of the large commercial rate. So in the interest of simplicity and trying to mirror it, that's kind of where those two kind of come in.
Shouldn't on-peak be higher than off-peak?
So again, I mean, you have to, you know, it's not just the distribution charge, you gotta add the energy charge as well. And I mean, if you look at you know, I mean, we're going from the delta is a half a penny. If you go from 0.047 to 0.0442, that's like less than half a penny, a third of a penny or whatever. And then you look at the energy charge difference and it's, you know, a factor of 10x or whatever. So
that actually might be, sorry to interrupt, that might actually be a typo. I'll have to go back and, because the distribution charge, I may have, when I was copying and pasting, because the distribution charge, I think,
That's what I was wondering, is if it should be like
should be the same.
Yeah.
Should be the same on and off peak because we don't actually touch that.
Yeah.
So
it's only on the energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just that piece is just could be a typo. I'm just taking a look.
But for the B rate, the distribution charges, there is a differential. A big differential.
Yes. 0.0064.
Yeah, so that should actually be the 0.064, I think.
For both?
Yeah, for both.
We don't
'Cause I think-
change the delivery?
Yeah, it's only changes the energy charge, or it should only change the energy charge
Oh,
rather.
okay.
So
So
that
should
I
it?
think was a mistake.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again? What?
So the distribution charges for the B rate should both be the
peak and
same,
off-peak are
off,
both the
no,
same?
off and on. Yeah, for
For the
delivery.
distribution charge, yes.
Yeah, distribution, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
So they should both be
They should-
0.0064?
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
So let me see your DP report. Okay, so can I grab your DP report?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, yes.
So if you look at the rates, if you look at the tariff sheets in the back.
That's why I brought it.
Yeah. I got scared when you brought that in at the beginning of the meeting. What is he into?
While you're looking at that, shouldn't energy charge be kilowatt hour instead of kilowatt in
Yes.
both cases?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might have changed
So the
their
commercial electric rate,
charge point.
the commercial electric rate.
They were originally.
Actually,
Here we go.
your rate.
Something else.
Okay.
Yeah, they were
The issue probably both.
Plus maybe.
what are they called?
So 470.
Connect, which I had not heard of. But the
EV Connect?
Yeah, it was, but they're showing offline and now they have charge points showing.
Power rate,
Mm-hmm.
which should be the for resale. Yeah, it's 00640.
It's interesting.
That much lower?
Again, because of demand. You know what I mean? There's no demand
What-
on that. We have small commercial,
What's-
industrial, whatever you want to call it.
What's the, for the B, for the large commercial rate, what's the normal customer charge?
It's 60.
60.
Right.
Okay.
Exclusively.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Just curious. And then the demand.
Demand is,
1150.
okay.
Per kilowatt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So sorry, do we know what the correction is?
So it should, so Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, it should be on the, not for resale or the TOU rate A, it would be, on the distribution charge, it would be, it would be 4.7 cents or 0.470 for both on the distribution charge.
Yeah.
And the 4.42 goes away on the on-peak. And it's replaced with 0.470.
Yep, exactly.
So that remains the same. Distribution charge on the time U rate B, which is for resale. It should be 0.0064 again, which mirrors the power rate C.
Correct.
Yep. And then the energy charge on the B should just, it should say per kilowatt hour.
Correct.
And that's the last correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so both of them should say kilowatt hour. The distribution charge should be the same at both peak and on peak in the two separate rates.
Okay, good. So my question next then is, why are you proposing that we have a non-demand rate in case A and a demand rate in case B versus potentially vice versa, or even potentially giving them both an option? You can either have a demand or a non-demand in either case.
So I
So
think,
Go ahead,
I think simplicity is one of the things there. I mean, you could have four rates, essentially. You know, demand, not demand, different use cases. I think you could do four rates, but logistically, I don't think that's. I mean, you could do it, but I think, and then a lot of times, I think for the not for resale, I think they will probably be a lot more geared towards small commercial than it would be a large commercial. I mean, some of the big developments, even at the head of the lake, I mean, they're going to put chargers in, but they're going to let the public access them. Maybe they will, and if they do, then they'd go right to the B rate. If they don't, then they'd be on the A. But I think a lot of those, like the landscaping company that has a small fleet, I feel like that is more geared towards the small commercial, which would be the A. And I think because we don't have a huge demand for it, a call for it yet, I think keeping it to two in those situations and getting maybe the 90% on each side or 75%, 60%. I mean, we can see where that lands. I mean, I don't know how many people will even start with this rate in the next year. But it could be something where, we look at it and if it doesn't make sense going forward, then we can make that adjustment. But if we put four rates in there, um, we might have to make four adjustments, or we might have to because it's still pretty new, and most places don't even offer a rate of this type. So that's kind of I think the logic with the two different scenarios, and then maybe there could be that 10% that doesn't exactly fit in the bucket where we thought they would.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's experimental, I guess anyways. Peter, what was the rate where the language in the tariff says that we'll change it, subject to change occasion?
That was on the ESCC stuff. We review the ESCC charge
Yeah,
on a regular basis. So we set that charge annually. So we had language around that in there.
okay, because I thought in the last meeting, we talked about maybe having to.
Trying to create some kind of language like that, yeah.
But what part of this would have to be changed, or is that not?
I think we did when we decided to split it into the two rates. I think we discussed the flex, trying to keep it as simple as possible, and the whole idea of a not for resale and resale. That's kind of where we covered that. So we could still change the numbers if we choose to, but I think at this point with the pilot rate like this, we try to keep it as simple as possible.
All right, I have I think only one other question. So on the next page 54, if the 15th calendar day falls on a weekend or a holiday, the deadline's extended to the next calendar day instead of the next business day. And I wonder if it shouldn't be the next business day. Otherwise, it could, if it falls on a Saturday, it's going to be Sunday, which means then it's going to be Monday, which is a holiday. So then it's going to be Tuesday. So if we just say the next business day, then we don't have to keep. No, you're right. You're right. Yep. Yep. Okay.
Should we add just the hours for the off-peak and on-peak period just in the tariff itself, so that whoever's reading this doesn't have to refer back to the residential time of use rate or another tariff?
I would think so. And I actually had that note like.
So like like the off, just like the hours.
Yeah, because my note was
off-peak and on-peak.
This tariff sheet keeps referencing back to the other tariff sheets, and I'm not sure that makes sense. So I have a number of questions on like just the wording of it, and that's definitely one of them. The hours aren't even specified.
So on the residential one, Joe, we spell out the hours, right?
Let me pull it up. I think we might specify the hours. I think you're correct.
Yeah, so
Mark probably has it quickly. Yeah, because we fixed the hours on that for simplicity versus making it dynamic.
It says, okay, so it says included with the EVM2 are two distinct periods of electricity use, on-peak hours and off-peak hours, both of which will be determined by the department on an annual basis.
Oh, so that's where we give ourselves the flexibility.
Oh,
right.
That doesn't sound
if the load
right.
curve change.
Yeah, the load curve. That's what the reason we did that is because if the peak changes, so it gives us a little flexibility to redefine the peak.
But at some point, you got to tell the customer what they want, you know what I mean?
But I think we establish it annually, and then
I mean, do you want to add language saying that we'll give the customer notice, or is there something that just gives us that little extra say, like if it does change, they'll be
notified
promptly.
We should have to do that for the residential too.
Yeah. We built the rate has the flexibility to change it, but we haven't changed it. I think we would have to provide them notice if we were going to change it. So
has the peak changed that much from year to year?
Well, not year to year in recent history, but year to year in the past 15 years.
Yes, I understand.
So
but I'm just saying,
building this into like going forward, if the peak changes again over the next 10 to 15 years, we would want to make sure we change it.
Yeah, so we'll have the flexibility because of that language, but I think just for simplicity and understanding for the customer.
I think if we leave the words the same, then it gives us that flexibility to change it
when we need to.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the actual tariff should reference the actual on-peak, off-peak hours.
Well, in the residential one, we didn't. We set it when they sign. Basically, when they sign up for the rate, we inform them what it is, and then we'll have to notify them when we change it. But the tariff gives us flexibility to change it without having to refile the tariff.
Yeah, I mean, an example is 10 years ago, the peak was 2 to 3 p.m. Now it's in the 6 to 7. In the next 10 years, if the heat pump.
I understand, but I'm just saying.
Put it in the tariff. Like I hear what you're saying, but I think if you define it in the tariff, then we lose the ability for the dynamic part with the language of informing, because
we can't just update it with that language.
Yeah, because I don't think you can just update the tariff with the language without recreating the tariff.
As opposed to just providing notification there's a process that we would have to have a public hearing and all that.
Okay.
As opposed to just providing the people that are on the rate the notice that the new peak hours are X.
Okay. I mean, I would be okay with putting, in the language with the dynamic language saying that we will provide, at least 30 days or 15, whatever it makes.
Yeah, we'll provide notification. Yeah.
Notification with some sort of expectation of, if we're going to change it, we will give you 30 days notice.
So for right now, there's a handful of customers, you know what I mean? It's manageable at this level. So, I mean.
And we're 2 years into we're in the second year of the residential one, and we see no need to change it, but like 7 years down the line, we may.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would mean refiling the residential to add a statement in there too. That they will be notified if we change it 1 year over the next.
Right. I don't think we're obligated to do that by the existing rate, but
Is there any thought as to on our website where these are posted, define peak and off peak for
yeah, we could do that.
customers? And then
I was
because
saying it
in
should be on
between
there.
receiving your letter, which you might lose, then you don't know.
Right, you should be able to go to the website and see what the hours are.
Find it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I think right under the rates.
Right under rates.
Yeah, under rates, put just, electric rate schedule, maybe put just the bullet saying current,
Somewhere in there.
current peak, current
Joey does. Yep, they-
off peak hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just concerned that the customer might get confused.
Yeah. Good
So I
point.
think we do want to include that language that we have in the residential about the ability to change, but then we can post the hour. When they sign up, we notify them, and I don't see us changing it in the near future, but
Yeah.
in the long term, we may.
We want the flexibility.
Yeah. All right, so I think we have some edits that we'll make and then send out another draft of this.
And
Probably not gonna schedule the hearing.
Question on, this is not resale versus resale, and Joey brought up a point about the head of the lake being on the not resale, but they potentially could be setting up for resale to their residents, right? So if just gonna use ChargePoint as an example, they have it there, they have their rate set, the resident is restricted to residents only, but the building owner is recouping the electricity rate from the resident through the ChargePoint app. Technically, that's a sale.
Right.
Would we consider that a sale, or would that be not resale because it is restricted to the residents and the residents?
I think that one would be more likely that it is resale.
Is a
Okay.
resale,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The head of the lake, I think it's gonna end up being resale.
Okay. So that answers that question. Yeah.
But the usage is not as defined, right? It's not, it's not.
Yeah, it's not public.
Yeah, like I have
Yeah.
a concern that the behavior does not match the rate structure in that instance.
Because it's not public access, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they could say, right, they could treat it like a residential and say, plug in
The whole point is to
And-
differentiate on behavior, not differentiate on
and charging will
ownership
start till
structure or
9
whatever,
p.m.
right?
Right? Is because it's restricted to I could see a scenario where the head of the lake folks have programmed their chargers. I live there, I plug in, and the charger does not activate till off peak. I will still get the charge of financial charge of charging my vehicle, but that's because it's not off of my meter that I'm solely responsible for. It's off of the meter that is part of
Controlled by the ownership
by
group.
the ownership group. So it just
Are you thinking about like a private space where you're charging?
yeah. So
Yeah.
so for the parking garage, let's just say the parking garage is restricted to residential only.
Yes,
So it is not open to the public.
right.
Furthermore, they could also restrict the chargers to residential only charging. So it is not public behavior in the way that, I could just drive up to the head of the lake and plug in. And
Yes,
that is clearly defined as rate B, which is resale. But because there potentially is
What do
money
we-
exchanging hands,
yeah.
that is a sale. So I don't know how we would differentiate that, because I had the concern that Jen is kind of circling around is that the behavior
Yeah.
that we would want to drive at a large residential is like the rate a structure.
Right.
How are multi-unit dwellings currently assessed? I mean, are they?
There is no time of use, so it's there. If if they allow everybody to park and charge, they're on our commercial rate right now. So if it's greater than 5,000 kilowatt hours, then they're on the power rate. If they're not, it's on the regular rate. But
Okay.
irregardless, it's only on, there's no time of use aspect to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and following on from that, my question is like, who decides what rate the customer goes on? Is it the customer? Is it WMGLD? Like, who has the say over whether they consider it to be public or private?
Well, don't most multi unit dwelling, like multi-family apartment complexes, don't they charge their own residents to charge?
They don't have to.
I know, but I think
I don't know that we
do.
have any sort of data on that.
Right now, the building that has Tono's, the resident, they have a few chargers and it's just product, but it's billed through the house account.
Oh, okay.
And anyone can go in there and charge.
I'm not sure, can they?
Yeah.
I've been in there to charge.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's public charging.
So it's like if somebody breaks in and charges, does that make it public? Not really,
Yeah.
right? Like a couple illicit uses does not really make it a public charge.
Yeah.
I was more around the large apartment complexes that have their charging is restricted to residential
residents.
That it isn't not open to the public, but there is still money being changed hands because as resell, as a large business or a large residential owner, let's say I own a large business or a large building, I wouldn't be expected to subsidize the charging of everyone. That just being on that meter that I'm paying as a bill. I would pass those direct costs onto the residents, and that would be
Well, who makes that decision?
I think that would be the building owner.
The building.
I mean, most likely even for the head of the lake, there's no there's only one commercial facility in there, one restaurant, that's it. The rest of it is all apartments. And I would say it's very unlikely that that area would have, there would be anything like a resale, like they all the tenants would be there. So I would say that would fall more in the residential rate versus the resale because that's just multi-unit, probably restricted parking for most of the tenants with some visitor parking. But I can't see people parking to walk the lake and go over there. They would probably frown on that, trying to reserve those parking spots for their folks. And the same with other facilities that are residential. They're most likely geared up for the tenants that are there, unless there's commercial space. And then you get the gas station that puts a level 3 charger in. Well, they fall under the resale rate because they are in fact reselling they're purchasing it from us and then they're reselling it to the public. So they would fall under the resale rate. But the residential, I would think most likely they would not fall under the resale.
I was just asking a question because rate A says non-retail, but there is still money changing hands, and by definition, that is a resale of electricity, even though it is to residents within that.
Well, I could imagine that they could have two different setups. They could have charges, in the parking garage, that's for residents only, and maybe there's a gate, and so nobody else can get in there. But then near the restaurant where there's parking open for the public, maybe they'd have a couple of public charges, and that would be on a different meter. And that would be resale, and the other one could be considered non-resale because it's only for.
Yeah, I was asking him like who makes the determination because, by definition, they are reselling power and our rate is structured as rate A, non-resale, and rate B, resale. So from a, lawyer kind of type of hat,
Yep.
they're still selling power on rate A. Do we have like
Maybe
gas and light have an issue with that? Like, are we making the determination?
Right, we could address that with language and maybe call it not just resale, but public, something with the word public in there.
I agree.
Private,
Public
private
access,
residential.
public
I mean,
access.
private residential usage. You could say not for resale and private resident, something that kind of captures those two things. Because I think that is in the spirit of the non.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
I see what you're saying. It is resale. It's not like it's not just fleet charging where that's really not for resale. It's just whoever's there, they're using it to charge up their fleet and they're just paying for it. But yeah, like we've said, like it's behavior based. I think that's where the delineation is, and that falls under the same type of category. So maybe language about private, so because it's not public, so private residential usage or
yeah, I think
something like that. Maybe there's a better way to say it,
that's
but I think
But
that
again,
satisfies it, and that's with the head of the lake as an example. I think that they should be on rate A. I just want to make sure that we're not putting language in that forces them over to rate B because of the the exchange of money for charging.
right. But you could have a apartment complex that charges its residents to charge.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would
in a
expect
private
I would
charging
expect
situation.
them to,
Yeah.
like the head of the lake, I would expect those chargers to have some mechanism to charge the residents their charging fee.
Yes.
So that's an exchange of money. I'm not saying that
Okay.
and that's my hang up is because of the exchange of money,
Yes.
that would potentially put them in rate B because we say resale and non-resale.
Got it.
Well, but if they put all charge point chargers in, the building management company makes it a third, then they would be in the resale one. You know what I mean? If they use a third party mechanism,
Yeah.
then they
Well,
would be.
But I would still think that they would be in as a residential building, the behavior would be in rate A. But I wouldn't expect the building owner to not recoup the cost of power from those consuming the power. It would be no different, than my own home where I have the second meter as a residential EV charger. That bill is my responsibility. And that behavior is my responsibility. So still pay it like we're trying to model rate a bit after the residential charging EV rate. I think that does that. I'm concerned with the language of resale, not resale, because would be money changing potentially hands in rate A. So I think the kind of resale for public resale is
Public resale,
yeah.
should be enough, yeah.
So, I mean, would we have the option of just serving under the existing existing rate structure we have on file? Would kind of be the question. And I mean, if I look at it.
Yeah, I would still think that would be rate A.
Okay, if you look at it, we're really, really splitting hairs because like on the residential side, it's that 0.0442 again versus 0.047. I mean, that's 0.3 of a cent. You know what I mean? And on the energy charge, it's 0.048 versus 0.0456. Again, fractions of a penny. Same thing on the distribution charge. And then when we go to the on peak, it's 45 cents versus 47. So I mean, it's we're squabbling over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think simply adding public resale to rate B satisfies that it just makes it more clear.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense to fix the language and keep any ambiguity out of there.
All right, so I think what we want to do then is take the feedback. We're going to tweak the language and then share it again at the May meeting. And then potentially have the hearing at the June meeting.
Okay, I'm just gonna say one thing. When you say public resale, people, when you say the word public, are you talking about public access or are you talking about just
Public access, like the chargers downtown, like anyone can pull up and charge.
but I'm just saying, like I said before, you could have private access and you could be charged at the resale rate. You could have a charge point charger, bank of charge point chargers within a parking lot at the head of the lake that's only accessed by residents.
And
So then that wouldn't make sense to have the word public there.
So I think
B.
instead of touching the B, I think B can stay as it's described. I think A is where you modify the language and you put private in there and you say not for resale
Private.
or private residential charging. I think that to me clears it up because the only situation that we'd want them to be on A, I think, is if they're just for the residents. So if we, that to me is private residential because it's a private access residential because it's the access, whereas it's public, or you could even put both if you wanted to. You could say private access residential, and then on B, you could say public access for resale if you really want to go crazy with it. But I think, you could just touch A to me, and just because that's the
that
one
works as
caveat
well.
we're dealing with, I think, is just the private, blocking it off to the public, residential charging. So if we just put that in, I think on the A side, that to me
Okay.
covers everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah, except that it's not just residential, right? Because it could be
Yeah.
fleet.
Right.
It could be,
Yeah, please.
yeah.
So residential.
Well, but that's not for resale though. So if you keep the not for resale or private residential access or something, some kind of
Wait,
language.
but this is a commercial rate, so I wouldn't use the word residential.
Yeah, I think it's very confusing to have the word
Mhm.
residential.
So I would just say, I think what you said, Joe, not for resale, uh, private charging,
Yeah,
that would be sufficient. Because it's a commercial rate. If you start
Yeah.
saying that it's residential for private residential use, I think people might get confused.
yeah, that's fine.
You're already referring to the residential rate in the tariff. Okay, I have just one more question. It says level 2 and or DC fast charger. Would
Sorry.
the first page of the tariff. It says level 2 or DC fast charger. Is it anticipated that either would be either rate could be used for level 2 or level 3
Yes, I would think
in the small
because
commercial rate?
yep, because I think behaviorally it's kind of that same, yeah, they have that same control over it. So it's, whether it's a lot of usage or a little bit
Okay.
less, I think you
Because the
still
demand charge for the small commercial is buried in the energy charge.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So it's not like, okay, all right.
I have one more. Sorry. Page 54 at the bottom. It says opting out. To me, the word opt out has a very specific meaning. It means that it's mandatory that everyone be in the program, but you can opt out. And that's not what this is. I think this is like termination or something. So
It could actually probably just go under term of contract. It's really all the same
good.
thing.
Yeah.
Just combine those into one section called term of contract.
So yeah, just to consider whether to use a different term than opt out.
Oh, instead of opting out, you would put something else?
like termination or or you can
Or just move it to the
move it to term of contract or whatever. Yeah.
next.
Mhm.
Solar. And it's only the demand and distribution that are discounted, right? Nothing else.
The demand and energy charge.
Demand and distribution, right? It says the
Well,
energy.
that's the type. So really, you could take the distribution charge out of the rate because it actually doesn't change from on. I think it was supposed to be just to show that it's the same, but I think that's where the typo was, where um it isn't the same the way it's put on this piece of paper. So really, we could take the distribution charge out because we actually don't touch the distribution charge on peak or off peak.
I don't understand what you're saying. It says the customer
Page
charge,
are you on?
energy, 54 toward the bottom. The customer charge, energy charge, fuel adjustment charge, and energy conservation will not be discounted. Which leaves what? Because that leaves demand and distribution. So that's why I'm saying that means the demand and distribution are the ones that get the discount. Right.
That's what you're saying. Yep.
Okay. And that doesn't even have.
The distribution charge is not changed.
Distribution charge isn't changing, it's the energy. Right.
Yeah, it's
Energy charge that's
What do you mean change? You mean the discount?
There's
You're talking
no-
about-
there's no-
Yeah, it's right here, discount 10%.
But it's not shown on the numbers.
That's the standard.
this is the 10% discount for early payment.
Right, exactly. Yep. So that discount is only on the demand and distribution. I just thought it was kind of weird the way it's worded to say what's
No,
not
is the
discount.
discount applied to the entire bill?
No, it says the customer charge, energy, fuel adjustment, and energy
Will not be
conservation will
discount.
not be discounted.
Uh-huh.
Which leaves distribution demand.
Yeah.
So
I see what you're saying. I was thinking I was going back above with the on peak versus off peak, but you were talking about the discount. That's where I was
better
confused.
language to just say only the distribution and energy charge.
That's what I thought. Well, yeah, just to clarify, well, what is discounted? Because I had to go back and say, okay, well, what's not in this list that is discounted?
Yep, makes sense to just say what it applies to.
And is that the same thing with the discount on all the other rates? That is just those two components?
Yeah, so if you look at that,
Mhm.
right, so 10%, so the distribution charge here is what?
What?
Your the distribution charge,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And there's the discount, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
10% of distribution only, okay, on my residential, but in this case.
Which has
demand.
no demand, obviously.
Yeah. Okay,
And I'm listed as a chair on the last page,
That's when it was,
in addition to Sharon, so.
oh, two chairs.
Co-chair.
oh, this one?
Yeah, there's a typo.
Not my best work, clearly.
No.
We have to do some editing.
You could be the chair.
Nope. No, I cannot be.
Actually, by the time
By the time it gets filed.
it'll actually be Tom.
Oh, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
If it gets filed in 2029, I guess maybe, but we'll see.
Tom's turn.
TBD.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we have some editing to do. We'll bring another version of it back next month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for entertaining all of our questions.
Questions and comments.
That's what I'm here for.
Think you'll ever get to vehicle to grid?
Not real soon.
Okay. Next on the agenda. Goals.
Um, So Dave, Mark and Dave returned, we made his day on the second day, sat down and went over this. So on,
Hold on, you want me to make edits?
well, we can, or
Hoping to do it on the actual file, so I don't have to go home and redo it tonight, so sorry. You can begin to talk.
okay, the first one, it's really just a bookkeeping thing. We should make, switch 2 and 3, because
Records go, huh?
What page are you on?
page number 56 in the board book. And under the first set of goal safety, switch. Because lost time accidents, then personal injuries, then motor vehicles.
Yep.
2 and 3.
Does anybody have a concern with that?
That's just a
assuming
book,
no.
that's just a bookkeeping. I think.
Yep.
On the next page, I had a little concern. So the wording of number 5, install energy park and operate BS. It should, we're not gonna have the energy park installed this year, so install energy park battery and install, it should say install and operate energy park battery storage system
To install and operate BES of Energy Park.
of energy park, yeah.
Hold on. Can you say that again?
Install and operate
Yep.
BESS
Yep.
All right,
of Energy Park.
Of.
Of the Energy Park.
Yep. Okay.
On number 6, we have different emergency response plans for electric and for gas. So I don't know if we want to separate that or cover that in the wording somehow.
Document electric and natural gas.
The electric and gas have separate emergency response. Yep.
Okay.
And then in the in number 7, I think the concern, so we want to under the metric, we want to say quantify the impact of the stranded costs. I don't know if we have option. In year 1, we're going to quantify the stranded costs, not necessarily have the options yet to reduce them.
So what'd you say?
So under the metric for number 7, we'll quantify the impact of the stranded costs.
Okay.
Okay.
On customer, update energy efficiency and decarbonization offerings to reach net zero 2050 targets.
Mm-hmm. We're calling it net zero by 2050. Yeah. Okay.
Do we say to reach net zero 2050 or in alignment with?
And until to align with 2050.
Alignment, because you're not going to
constantly
here, right?
Yeah, it's gonna
Just
Number four, the veg management, it's actually in the electric side. The veg management budget and targets is probably redundant in terms of spending because it's already in the electric budget.
The number four?
Or under financial.
Financial one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Board.
Tab four, yeah.
Number one, the last one.
Yeah. We don't have a separate veg man. Veg manager is a subset of the electric budget.
Pretty okay with just
Removing it?
Yeah, yeah. And Mark, I drew a defined.
Which one?
In three and four, I had arrows to switch something.
Yeah, so what we were kind of talking about, so it's number three is receive unmodified opinion on annual audit. The metric is, how many deficiencies did we have? And cash on hand is really, it's reported like at audit time, but it's really kind of how it's kind of aligned with how are we managing our receivables, because the cash is either sitting on the balance sheet as cash or we're not collecting it from our customers, you know what I mean? So it really kind of just that months of cash on hand really needs to kind of shift down one into goal number four. That's what we were kind of talking about. Or you could put it as a separate goal altogether, but it really doesn't belong with the
audit.
The audit
It's
opinion.
really, the audit is, was everything reported correctly? You know what I mean? Did you do it right or wrong? Month of cash on hand is, is a measure of how we're effectively managing the cash flow.
Yeah, it's cash flow. Would actually be, I would think, its own number, like number six, managed cash flows.
Either way, I'm fine with, but yeah.
All right, how do you want to see it?
The goal would be effectively manage cash flow, and then it's, the metric would be number of months of cash.
Okay.
So I'd make that five, and then I would move the monitor and evaluate other funding sources as number six.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure if I remember on the electric and gas supply. We had a comment about in the heating sector reduced. Dave, you might add a comment on this one. The second one in number three.
The second one.
Reduce weather normalized gas peak demand through implementation of commercial EE programs.
Oh, yeah. So, should we say that this is for specifically town-owned buildings?
Your commercial EE program only apply to town-owned buildings?
Hold on. I was just looking at my notes. No. I looked at the wrong one.
What would be the target?
Yeah, I think maybe
Yeah.
scribble a note and I can't read my writing on the note.
Yeah, I know. I think I wrote my comment on the wrong. No. Looks like the wrong one. Oh, I know what it was. So on this one, our focus has been town-owned buildings. So that's the issue. This is vague, and it really just talks about commercial EE programs for 20 for 25, right? But currently our focus. We have we're coming up with a commercial audit program, commercial customers, but we don't have a lot of control over that. So we shifted, not shifted, but we've focused more to support the town and audit the buildings and work with them on energy efficiency, gas peak reduction. So that's what our focus has been. My question is, or my comment was, should we, for our goal for 25, be more aligned with our efforts right now? Our commercial energy efficiency program, yes, but primarily we are focused on working on town-owned buildings, auditing them, working with them on supporting them for grant funding, and looking at reducing their peak load um, on demand on those town buildings too, because those are our biggest gas users.
But that's what it says up right above it, support the town on implementation of the Green Communities Energy Reduction Plan. Is that what you're referring to?
No, he's
No.
talking even more specifically from that. That's a piece of it, but the other stuff, it has been more focused on. But I think we are expanding that, Dave, to like we're doing stuff like we did an audit for brothers. Part of the
We
Liv's
did.
goal is
Yeah.
try to expand it to other
Right,
places.
but are you?
But I think what's the
Been to date on the town buildings?
Yeah, it has been on the town, but I think
What we
getting back to
covered.
what the target, I guess the gap is what's the target?
Yeah,
Could we make it a reporting metric
Yeah,
rather than a target? Just how many commercial customers?
yeah,
or report
yeah.
Right, report on the number of, report on the number of customers that you've engaged.
or number of customers that were.
Well, I think we want to know the
Report particip-
reductions, right?
Well, sorry, in 25, we may not know the reductions because if we're just implementing. So in year one, we're probably going to be reporting on participation levels.
Yeah.
And then it's going to take time to see the reductions. So
Yeah.
maybe on that, and maybe on the second one, report participation.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that when we talk about this again in a year, that the definition of commercial customers includes the schools and town-owned buildings, right? Because those have a big impact and those are our focus. So, I just wanted to make sure that we're all working towards the same goal. Commercial customers includes town-owned buildings.
But and then the measure of the target is a reporting participation.
Yeah.
Until we have a baseline.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And number 6, I don't think we had any comment.
What about a target for
Number
4?
second one.
Support and enable the town to pursue economic development opportunities related to fleet vehicle charging.
I think that would be similar to like.
Yeah, it's probably a reporting only.
Report engagement. And we have Liv and I met last week with Erin to begin the dialogue around things that she could pursue, and we shared. Liv, do we have actions and follow-ups from that meeting?
So she's working on getting me a list of businesses, and then I sent her over a bunch of information about the commercial programs and kind of what we can do for audits. The other thing, she had sent me a couple programs that they're working on, so just looking into those and seeing if there's any way we can partner with them. But kind of the end was just keeping each other in the loop and in constant communication of businesses and ways we can help each other.
And we did talk about the fact that we're engaged in developing a commercial EV rate, which also might help her in promoting like bus try or some other things.
Once
like
that's
once that's done, we'll share that with her.
To use that as an opportunity to engage.
Yeah. So I think it's a
report engagement related to outreach on
Yeah.
fleet vehicle charge. Right.
Which was fine. So, the only thing we were concerned about is the bottom of the goal sheet had the rating, like the
breakdown,
the scoring kind of thing at the end. So including that, at some, I think we added an extra, so the math can
7 now instead of 6.
Yeah, but we should still have that, like that scoring thing.
I can add that.
So that was our only comments.
Gonna weight them equally.
Unless you want to be here for another hour.
I just want everybody's agreement that it will be weighted equally.
Yes, but yes.
That was more of a statement, not an ask.
But other than that, I think if we make those tweaks, I think
Okay.
it's kind of good that we waited because we were able to re-engage Dave too. So
Oh, it was good.
And thank you, and I really appreciate that, Pete.
that opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
He was sitting at home saying, "I'm not engaged enough in the goals for 25 yet, so I got to get back to work."
Oh, let us thank you. Okay, great. I will send this out to you.
Yep, thank you.
The updates. And do we need to vote or anything, or?
I think so.
We do, right? Okay. Are we doing that right now?
As the goals as modified.
Please.
Well, I can make a motion and then we can discuss it. It doesn't have to be seconded. It only has to go to vote if someone seconds it, but once I make a motion, we can discuss.
Okay.
I'll go for second, but okay. So I'll make a motion that we adopt the goals as amended for tonight's discussion.
Second.
Or 2020, for the upcoming year.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
When do we actually vote on them? I meant, well, no, you said we're voting on the discussion.
No, voted as a.
Oh, no, I made a motion for discussion purposes, but then.
Oh.
So, yeah.
No, nobody opted to discuss the second.
Okay.
Once the motion is moved and seconded, it's open for discussion. If there's no discussion, you just take the vote.
Okay. Got it. We did talk a little bit about this already, but the tariffs on energy supply, materials, equipment, and contingency planning. So you talked a little bit about this.
Yep.
Beginning of the meeting.
And I shared with you the last presentation we got from MWork a couple weeks ago. So
it's a little bit outdated, this presentation, because it's tariff amounts are not what
right.
we thought a couple of weeks ago.
So we haven't been informed of any other action. So the action we took following this meeting on March 17th was that we increased our fuel charge by 0.5 cent based on the knowledge that ISO was in the March bill going to start to collect a little bit more money from us. We did an analysis of where we stood on the percentage of our portfolio, which is approximately 5%. So we raised it 0.5 cent to potentially cover that. But again, the numbers are changing on a daily basis. So it was throwing a dart at a very big dartboard. That's moving. Yeah, and the dartboard is spinning around in a circle and flipping over too. So so that's the action we took. And again, from our purchasing perspective, as Vinny said, we're trying to, for the big stuff, for the one-off stuff like switchgear and things like that, we'll go out for pricing. As I don't think what we have quotes for, we haven't been informed that anything is going to change in terms of the stuff that we're expected to receive. If it does, we'll have to take that into account, but we haven't been notified by any vendors that anything that we have numbers on that's in process.
There's no like shortage or hoarding kind of.
Right. Not as of yet. It's just a lot of dancing and uncertainty right now. The one I will watch is obviously closely is the generator. Dave, the generator that's en route, is that being manufactured in the United States?
Yes, I believe it is. I believe all the components are, well, majority of the components are manufactured and assembled in the United States.
So
What have we already paid? Like if it's being manufactured?
we have a deposit down
Oh,
on
we
it.
just
Yeah.
have it. So
I mean,
is there
contractually, we
language?
have a price and, I'm sure there's some language, but they have not approached us on, changing any, the impact of pricing and looking to increase the cost.
And we paid almost a year ago to hold our
Yeah.
spot in the production line. So.
Yeah, it's been a year. And the same with the switchgear. We've given them significant deposits on the switchgear. That's the second big ticket item, and they haven't approached us either. And that's scheduled for a July delivery, and the generator is scheduled for a September delivery.
But do we, I know that is there any impacts coming that we know of on the natural gas side?
We're coming out of the winter season, but the forward pricing. So we just took a 25% layer for 25 and 20. We try to layer and when we do it, typically we'll buy like 25% for next year and 25% for the following year so that we're layering in. That was about 10% higher than last year's forward price. So we levelized the 2 years. So our number last winter, we were budgeting around 793, I think it was. This came in at about 847. So. And so we have a 25% strip for 25, 26, and then for 26, 27. And again, who knows? Are we gonna be happy about having natural gas or not happy about having, who knows? It spins by the day. I wish we had a coal plant as of today, but I guess because
I know.
Yeah.
Given the news.
Nasty look over there.
Try and
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Who knew we could
Is the
repeat
Bow
this?
plant, the one in Bow, New Hampshire, which was the last coal plant is that shut down?
Merrimack Station still had some too. I don't know.
Uh,
I don't
I didn't think Merrimack.
think we had.
Bow, New Hampshire was the last one that had coal. I don't know if it was still operating or not. So. But and that's in all of New England. So
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't envision coal coming back to New England, let alone Massachusetts. But who knows? The senator from West Virginia on Bloomberg, as I was driving here, sounded very happy.
They still sell it in 50-pound bags way up in Maine where we are. So you can heat your house with, yeah, they have coal stoves up there.
So
Kerosene.
so clean.
Oh.
But most of them can't even afford that. They just eat with wood. So
I just remember getting on someone's boat in Salem Harbor. It was covered in coal ash.
I worked there for
Gross.
years.
Oh, yeah.
This would be a lovely sailing trip.
I walked, so the coal's delivered off the ship into a yard and it's moved around and maneuvered, and then it's forced into this area that drops into a conveyor that carries it up to the top of the plant. And I walked that route many times from the coal yard up to the top of the plant. And the air quality was not the highest, but back in 1985, nobody really cared. So.
Wow. Now there are restaurants and.
Yes,
Mask.
when I was in college.
Put on your N95 and.
Definitely had this.
I worked there 84, 85, 86, and then I started at this in 87.
Now there's lovely restaurants there in that area.
Well, Footprints built the plant out front, yeah.
Okay. So now.
Just
Before we go into.
yeah, I gave you the information, but we probably want to go into executive session just to discuss.
Before we go into executive session, can just give us an update on, like, are we being asked to sign something today?
No, this is the current status. they tentatively agreed, but I'll give you an update on what's included in it. But we haven't made the contractual language changes. We don't have a draft contract yet.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable voting without
Not just
the actual contract.
Yeah, no,
And we don't, this contract doesn't go into effect until July 1st.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we have some time.
These are the changes that would be made to the contract, but next month we'll give you, we'll have a discussion tonight, and then next month we'll give you the red line contract.
Okay. So.
And this is only the first.
Yeah.
We haven't even engaged the supervisors yet. We've only dealt with the supervisors last time went first, and they were upset about that, so they didn't want to talk to us till this was done. So.
But from a time frame perspective, is it the same in July when?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. But I don't, it's only 9 people. Is it 9 or 10? So we'll engage them next.
We want to go into executive session now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other?
Open business?
If not, can I
Was Joe
entertain?
raising his hand there or no?
Oh, yeah.
I was waving goodbye.
I thought you wanted something.
I was like,
You were
no,
up late last night watching the basketball game.
maybe not.
All
All right.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Well, we need a motion, right?
Yeah, I'll make
Yes.
a motion.
Need the
Yeah.
motion?
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss collective bargaining updates. Then to come out of executive session to open meeting to close the meeting.
Okay.
Second
All
that.
in favor?
Aye.
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 Right. Thanks, Sylvia.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.